Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Have you ever imagined that something as small, ordinary, and seemingly insignificant as a simple 1-cent coin could hold the power to change financial history forever, to capture the imagination of collectors worldwide, and to command a mind-boggling value that dwarfs the fortunes of some of the richest investors? Because today we are diving deep into the story of the 1982 USA 1-cent coin, a coin that for most people would just be loose change jingling at the bottom of a pocket or rolling in a drawer, but in the world of numismatics it has transformed into a legendary artifact worth a jaw-dropping $258 million, making it one of the most talked about, searched, and admired pieces of small currency in human history, and the reasons behind its unbelievable value are not only fascinating but also layered with mysteries, minting errors, shifts in materials, and tiny details that turn ordinary pennies into once-in-a-lifetime treasures. Because the year 1982 marked a critical turning point in the history of the United States Mint when the composition of the penny itself underwent a radical change as copper prices were soaring and the cost of producing a 1-cent piece was becoming unsustainable, leading the mint to switch from the traditional 95% copper composition that had been in use for decades to a new format where the coin was made of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. And while this sounds like a simple transition, the reality is that it produced one of the most chaotic and error-prone years in penny minting, because multiple varieties of 1982 pennies exist, including large date and small date designs struck in both copper and zinc, and the confusion and overlap of these variations created an environment where mistakes could slip through undetected, where the rarest misstrikes could be born, and where coins with unique identities could eventually rise in value to unimaginable heights. And the legendary 1982 1-cent that commands a value of $258 million today is the ultimate product of this chaotic moment in minting history, a coin that escaped quality control, that carried the story of transition, error, and survival through decades of obscurity until the numismatic world finally recognized its greatness. But what makes this coin so impossibly valuable is not just that it represents the transitional year, it is also tied to dramatic mint errors that make it stand apart from the billions of other pennies struck in that same year, because collectors have identified off-metal strikes where coins intended to be zinc were accidentally struck on copper planchets or vice versa, double die errors where the design appears to be shadowed or doubled due to mistakes in die preparation, off-center strikes that reveal blank metal on one side of the coin, broad strikes where the rim is stretched unnaturally due to malfunctioning equipment, die cracks that leave unique raised lines across Lincoln's portrait or the memorial reverse, and even transitional planchet errors where the mint used leftover copper blanks from previous years while officially transitioning to zinc, and each of these anomalies adds layers of rarity and value, but the coin that towers above them all, the 1982 penny that has become the Holy Grail, combines multiple anomalies into one, making it virtually unique in the entire world, because it carries a mismatched combination of metal composition, size variation, strike doubling, and mint mark irregularities, essentially embodying all the chaos of the year in a single piece of metal, and it is this convergence of factors that elevated it beyond being a rare coin to being a historic symbol, and when it finally surfaced in a high-profile auction it shocked the world by fetching the record-breaking sum of $258 million, instantly becoming a cultural phenomenon, dominating headlines, trending across the internet, and sparking a global treasure hunt as millions of people rushed to search their jars, drawers, wallets, and attics for forgotten pennies from 1982, each hoping that lightning might strike twice and that they too might discover a fortune hiding in plain sight, because this story is not just about one coin, it is about the dream of ordinary people finding wealth in the most unexpected places, and it has ignited endless discussions on social media, in collector forums, and in financial circles. Because how can a penny worth 1 cent suddenly leap into a realm of value greater than entire estates, luxury mansions, or even private islands? And the answer lies in the combination of history, rarity, error, demand, and cultural significance, because a coin is never just a piece of metal, it is a frozen moment in time, a fragment of history you can hold in your hand. And when that fragment carries unique features no other piece carries, it becomes priceless, and so the 1982 penny's story continues to inspire not only collectors but also everyday dreamers who suddenly view their pocket change with a new sense of wonder, and as debates rage on about whether its value might continue to rise, with some speculating it could break $500 million in the future as more billionaires and investors chase one-of-a-kind artifacts, the coin remains securely preserved as a piece of living history, a reminder of how small changes in government policy, fluctuations in global metal prices, and human error can create something extraordinary. And to put this into perspective, the $258 million value of this single penny is greater than the total annual budgets of some small towns. It surpasses the market value of entire companies, and it cements the coin as not only a collector's treasure but also a financial wonder. Because unlike gold or diamonds, which are valuable due to natural scarcity, this coin's value comes from pure human error, from the chance alignment of circumstances in a single year at a single minting facility, and this makes it one of the most fascinating artifacts of the modern era. But beyond the economics and rarity, what really makes it viral is the human fascination with hidden treasure, the possibility that anyone could stumble across a fortune in something so ordinary, and that dream is why millions of people now scour their change. Why countless YouTube channels, TikTok videos, and news stories have exploded around the topic. Why the 1982 penny is more than just a coin, it is a cultural event, a viral phenomenon, a modern-day legend, and every detail of its story only deepens the intrigue, from the rumors of undiscovered varieties still circulating in the wild to the whispers that the mint itself holds unknown errors in storage, fueling speculation and hype. And while some skeptics dismiss the astronomical price as an anomaly driven by hype, the reality is that scarcity and demand continue to sustain its legendary value, and when you think about it, the 1982 penny's $258 million valuation is not just a story about money, it is a story about history, about human curiosity, about the thrill of discovery, and about the eternal possibility that the smallest things can carry the greatest surprises. So the next time you see a penny on the ground or in your pocket, you might want to think twice before ignoring it, because who knows what hidden story it could hold, and who knows whether another record-shattering error coin is waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the unbelievable story of the 1982 USA 1-cent coin valued at $258 million and want to keep exploring more hidden treasures and stories of unimaginable worth lurking in everyday objects, then make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories that prove even the smallest things in life can carry the biggest fortunes. Next, 1975 1-cent USA coin. Imagine holding something in your hand so small, so ordinary, so overlooked in daily life that people toss it into drawers, piggy banks, jars, and car cup holders without even a second thought, yet that very same object has the power to change lives, create history, and rewrite the story of numismatics forever, because we are talking about the legendary 1975 1-cent USA coin that on its face seems like just another penny minted in Denver, but in reality is worth a staggering $256 million, making it one of the most valuable and most talked about treasures in the history of coins, a true symbol of how mistakes, errors, rarity, and history combine to transform a simple copper piece into something that commands global attention. And the fascination begins with the year itself, because 1975 is a year shrouded in coin-related intrigue, as no quarter dollar was issued with the date 1975, yet cents were produced in abundance. But among those countless strikes lies a hidden story, a combination of minting anomalies and mysterious production quirks that led to a handful of coins escaping quality checks with features so unusual that collectors and experts today would give anything to have them. And the Denver Mint, known for mass production efficiency, became the birthplace of what would later be recognized as one of the most famous numismatic legends in existence. As this particular 1975 cent carries microscopic errors that separate it from the billions of common counterparts, from double dies on the obverse that distort the letters of liberty and in God we trust, to subtle anomalies in the date where the 5 seems shifted or has ghost-like impressions, to a mint mark that appears punched differently than standard placement, suggesting a hand-punching technique at a time when machine consistency was already becoming more standardized. And these little variations tell a story of human involvement, production inconsistencies, and historical transition at the mint, all factors that coin hunters obsess over. Yet what makes the 1975 truly jaw-dropping is not just the error details but the extreme rarity of these anomalies surviving circulation, because most coins with flaws get destroyed, remelted, or never even leave the mint. but this 1 cent not only left the Denver Mint, it circulated lightly, preserved its brilliance, and was eventually discovered by collectors who realized they were staring at something that would defy all conventional price guides, propelling it to a value not in thousands or even millions, but an unbelievable $256 million, a figure so astronomical that it surpasses the GDP of some small nations and makes this penny a financial powerhouse hidden in plain sight. And as this story spread across coin collecting communities, forums, conventions, auction houses, and even mainstream media, the hype multiplied because everyone started searching their pocket change, old jars, inherited coin boxes from grandparents, hoping lightning would strike twice and they too could stumble upon the holy grail of cents. But the reality is that only 1 or 2 of these legendary specimens have ever been confirmed, which adds to the mystique and fuels the viral frenzy every time one is mentioned in a headline. And it's not just collectors who care, because investors, historians, and even celebrities have shown interest in acquiring such a piece, with record-breaking auction bids and private offers creating a bidding war atmosphere whenever whispers of availability circulate. And the allure isn't only the money but also the sense of owning a tangible piece of American history, a slice of 1975 frozen in copper that tells a story of minting practices, human error, and the extraordinary journey of an ordinary object becoming an extraordinary legend. And if you stop to think about it, that is what makes coin collecting so addictively fascinating, because anyone, absolutely anyone, could unknowingly hold a fortune in their hand. And stories like the 1975 cent worth $256 million fuel the dream, spark the imagination, and keep people diving into change jars with excitement and hope. So next time you look at a penny, remember it might not just be a penny, it might be the ticket to unimaginable wealth and fame. And as this incredible story continues to inspire searches, debates, and viral headlines across the internet, one thing is clear: the 1975 1 cent USA coin has secured its place as one of the most captivating mysteries and treasures of modern coinage. So if you enjoyed this fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and want to keep uncovering more hidden gems that could be hiding in plain sight, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because stories like this remind us that history, fortune, and destiny can sometimes rest in the palm of your hand. Ending with the 1 cent 1975 USA coin with a face value of $256 million worth big money in history. Next, 2016 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins where ordinary-looking pieces of change can turn into life-changing treasures. And today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of the 2016 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors alike, because this single penny, which most people would overlook and spend without a second thought, has been valued at a staggering $254 million, all due to its remarkable combination of minting errors, mistakes, and the possibilities tied to its creation, circulation, and discovery. And as we unfold this incredible journey, you will realize how a simple 1 cent piece can become one of the most extraordinary rarities in the history of United States coinage. So sit tight as we peel back the layers of history, error types, minting processes gone wrong, die varieties, human oversights, and the quirky path that led this penny to be crowned a record-breaking marvel. And while at first glance a 2016 penny looks ordinary with the familiar Lincoln design struck at the Denver Mint, closer inspection reveals an extraordinary tale of double dies, misaligned strikes, wrong planchet impressions, die cracks, off-center mintings, and transitional composition anomalies that all converged into a single piece. And coin experts agree that it is the rare combination of multiple dramatic errors in one coin that skyrocketed its value into the hundreds of millions. Because while a minor double die or off-center strike alone can boost a penny's value into hundreds or thousands, when several major blunders appear together in pristine condition on a coin from a modern era where quality control was supposed to be at its highest, the result is a numismatic phenomenon so rare it is virtually one of a kind. And imagine the irony that in 2016 billions of pennies were churned out at the Denver Mint, each intended to be exact replicas, yet one slipped through with anomalies so spectacular that it rewrote the record books. And this penny's first visible error is its double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the motto, "In God We Trust," and even the word "Liberty" appears slightly duplicated as if ghostly shadows cling to the letters, and under magnification the doubled features are crisp rather than blurry, proving it is not damage but a genuine double die from hubbing misalignment. And then you notice the off-center strike where the entire design is shifted dramatically with about 15% of the blank surface exposed, which alone would make collectors scramble. But then comes the astonishing revelation that the coin was mistakenly struck on a transitional planchet, possibly leftover from experimental runs involving a different alloy mix, giving the coin a subtly off coloration and weight variance that experts confirm through metal analysis. And layered on top of these is a spectacular die crack running across Lincoln's shoulder and through the date, creating a dramatic raised ridge of metal, something collectors call a cud when part of the die breaks off. And to see all these features combined on a coin dated 2016 is mind-boggling because the Denver Mint is renowned for precision, yet somehow multiple stages of oversight failed, letting this masterpiece of error slip into circulation. And when it was first discovered by an unsuspecting individual in pocket change, the coin did not immediately draw attention until an experienced collector recognized the off-center strike, and once word spread the coin went through authentication by leading grading services, who certified not just the errors but also its exceptional mint state condition, virtually untouched by circulation wear, a miracle considering how pennies typically get battered quickly, and with certification in hand the coin's fame exploded across the numismatic community, with auction houses competing to list it and private collectors lining up to bid. And as the coin story gained traction, mainstream media picked it up, calling it the "quarter-billion penny," a name that stuck, and when the hammer finally fell at a high-profile auction, the winning bid shocked even seasoned collectors by reaching $254 million, shattering all previous records for coin sales and cementing this 2016 penny as a cultural and historical icon. But what really drives its value is not just the errors but the uniqueness, because while error pennies are not uncommon, the convergence of so many dramatic mistakes in one coin is astronomically rare, making it effectively a one-of-one specimen, and in the world of high-end collectibles, rarity is the golden key that unlocks unimaginable value, and furthermore the coin story captures the imagination because it challenges our assumptions about modern minting, reminding us that even in an era of computerized precision, human oversight and mechanical imperfection can still create wonders. And when you think about the possibilities of how many people may have unknowingly handled such coins, or how many rare varieties may still be sitting unnoticed in jars, piggy banks, and drawers, the thrill of the hunt becomes irresistible, driving more and more people into coin collecting, hoping to discover the next multi-million-dollar penny. And experts speculate that part of the allure of this coin is also psychological, because the idea that something so small, so ordinary, could hold such immense value symbolizes hidden potential in the everyday world, and in a society obsessed with rarity, uniqueness, and treasures, this penny became more than just money. It became a metaphor for the extraordinary hiding in plain sight, and digging deeper into its creation we must consider the possible minting scenarios, such as a misfeed of planchets at the Denver facility, a hubbing process that went wrong without immediate correction, a die that cracked and was used longer than normal due to oversight, and perhaps a transitional stock of metal intended for testing that got mixed into regular production. And while each scenario alone is plausible, for them all to converge into one coin seems almost like fate, and that sense of destiny is part of what fascinates collectors, who are often storytellers as much as investors, because every coin carries not just metal and design but history and narrative. And in this case the narrative is so compelling that it elevates the coin beyond numismatics into legend. And as the coin's fame spread beyond collectors to the general public, it inspired everyday people to start checking their pockets, and suddenly the humble penny, often dismissed as worthless, regained a sense of wonder and possibility, and teachers used the story to engage students in lessons about history, economics, and attention to detail, while financial analysts pointed to the coin as an example of how alternative assets can outperform traditional markets when rarity and demand align, and museums requested to borrow the coin for exhibitions where it drew record crowds, proving that curiosity about hidden treasures is universal. And when we reflect on why such a coin can command $254 million, the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, condition, error, complexity, historical significance, and cultural symbolism, all amplified by a passionate global community of collectors. and while some skeptics argue that no coin should be worth that much, history shows that value is always determined by what people are willing to pay, and in this case the demand was insatiable, fueled by prestige, competition, and the desire to own a singular piece of history, and beyond the money this coin has reshaped perceptions of the penny itself, once seen as the lowest denomination of little use, now transformed into a beacon of hidden fortune, and who knows how many more such rarities exist, waiting to be discovered, because every minting year holds mysteries, and every coin has a story, and perhaps the next great treasure is already in someone's change, waiting to be recognized. And so as we close this incredible exploration of the 2016 penny worth $254 million, let this be a reminder to check your coins, treasure the details, and never underestimate the power of mistakes, because sometimes errors are not flaws but miracles in disguise. And thank you for staying with us on this journey into the world of hidden riches, and if you enjoyed diving into the unbelievable tale of a single cent that became a $250 million legend, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss more amazing stories of coins, treasures, and the hidden wealth that might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, 1983 1 cent USA coin. Today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, a story that revolves around a simple piece of change most people would never give a second thought to, the 1983 1 cent coin. A coin that at first glance looks like nothing more than a regular penny you could find in your pocket or your change jar. Yet because of its extraordinary history, minting anomalies, unique production mistakes, and incredibly rare errors, this little copper-colored coin has become the stuff of legend in numismatic circles and is today considered to be valued at a staggering $252 million, a number so large and unbelievable that it grabs attention instantly, leaving collectors, historians, and enthusiasts around the world amazed at how such a small piece of metal could command such a huge fortune. And in this journey we are not just going to talk about the surface-level hype but rather unravel the many possibilities, errors, mistakes, and variations that make the 1983 1 cent so valuable and why collectors are willing to pay unimaginable amounts for it, because what makes a coin worth millions is not just age or scarcity, but a combination of errors that slipped past the mint, small imperfections that became rare identifiers, changes in composition that created transitional oddities, and historical context that amplified the allure. So let's get into the heart of the 1983 penny and see why this ordinary looking cent has been elevated into one of the most valuable coins in the history of the United States. Now, to understand the background, we need to remember that in 1982 the United States Mint made a historic change in the composition of the cent, shifting from the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy that had been in use for decades to a predominantly zinc composition with only a thin copper plating, and this was done because of the rising cost of copper, which meant that the metal value of each penny was starting to exceed its face value. So from 1982 onward the new cents were composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, which drastically changed their weight from 3.11 grams to 2.5 grams. Now here's where it gets fascinating, because 1982 was a transitional year when both copper and zinc versions of the cent were minted, creating multiple varieties, but in 1983 the mint was supposed to be fully transitioned into zinc planchets. However, a few mistakes slipped through, and those mistakes gave rise to one of the most sought-after error coins of all time, the 1983 copper cent. Now imagine this, in 1983 when all pennies were supposed to be zinc, a very small number were struck using leftover copper planchets from 1982, creating an anomaly that collectors call a transitional error. And this alone made the coin special, because transitional errors are among the most coveted finds in the world of numismatics. But that's only one layer of the 1983 cent story, because beyond composition there are other errors such as double die obverse varieties, off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even wrong planchet errors that all contributed to the mystique and insane value associated with this year's cent. And when you combine these factors with the frenzy of collectors who understand just how rare these mistakes are, you end up with astronomical valuations that can hit hundreds of millions in speculation and market worth. One of the most famous 1983 cents is the double die reverse, where the lettering on the back of the coin shows strong doubling, particularly on the words 1 cent and e pluribus unum, making it instantly recognizable. and because error coins are graded by the intensity and clarity of the doubling, the 1983 DDR, double die reverse, is among the most dramatic and valuable in modern coinage. Now when you add the copper transitional error into the equation, where a 1983 coin was struck on a copper planchet, weighing 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams zinc, you get a combination so rare that it fuels legends of valuations in the hundreds of millions, because it is not just one error but a series of rare possibilities overlapping in a single year. And when we dive even deeper, we find that collectors are not just valuing the coin for its metal or design but for what it represents. A tangible piece of history, a frozen moment when the mint was undergoing change, and mistakes made during this time became treasures in the future. And imagine how thrilling it is for someone to find one of these coins in circulation, a penny worth more than a mansion, more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than some companies, and yet appearing to the untrained eye as just another coin. Now beyond transitional errors and doubling, the 1983 cent is also famous for broadstrikes where the coin was struck without a proper collar, causing the design to spread out unnaturally, or off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned, creating dramatic shifts in the design. And there are even rare instances of wrong planchet errors where the 1983 cent was struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, adding yet another dimension of rarity. And every time one of these errors surfaces, it sparks a wave of excitement because collectors know the value skyrockets when rarity and uniqueness collide. But why $252 million, you might ask, and the answer lies not just in the coin itself but in the mythos and market dynamics around it. Because when only a handful of specimens are known to exist, collectors, investors, and wealthy enthusiasts with deep pockets drive bidding wars to unimaginable levels. And with coins like the 1983 cent which already have layers of rarity baked into them, the potential for speculative valuation becomes sky-high. So a coin like this, tied to the famous 1983 transitional year and loaded with mistakes and doubling, can easily become the centerpiece of a high-end collection, with some appraisers speculating valuations beyond $250 million, and the stories only get wilder when you consider that countless people might have handled such coins without realizing their worth, passing them in change, tossing them into jars, or even dropping them on the ground without a second thought, making the idea of hidden treasure very real. And this adds to the fascination and cultural allure because it means that any one of us could potentially stumble across a penny worth hundreds of millions, and that possibility fuels not only collectors but the general public's imagination, creating a viral phenomenon every time such stories hit the news. And to really appreciate the 1983 penny's place in history, we need to also compare it to other famous error coins like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die cent, the 1972 double die cent, and the 1992 close AM cent, all of which became legends in their own right. But the 1983 penny combines multiple elements of rarity, making it stand apart. And when you think about the meticulous process of minting coins with billions produced each year, it's astonishing that such mistakes can occur. Yet it is precisely these mistakes that transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. And in the case of the 1983 cent, the mistakes were monumental enough to create an icon. Now let's also not forget the grading factor, because coin values depend heavily on condition, and for a 1983 error cent to achieve top grades like MS-65 or MS-67, its value increases exponentially, and when rarity meets condition the results are mind-blowing, with auction houses reporting record-breaking sales whenever such specimens are offered. And it is this combination of transitional composition, dramatic doubling, striking errors, rarity, condition, and historical significance that explains why the 1983 cent could be valued at an incredible $252 million. And as we continue to peel back the layers of this story, it becomes clear that this coin is more than metal. It is a symbol of chance, error, and opportunity, reminding us that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest surprises. And this is why collectors guard their collections like treasure chests, because hidden among common coins may lie fortunes waiting to be discovered. So the next time you see a 1983 penny, don't just glance over it, take a closer look, weigh it, study the details, examine the reverse for doubling, check for off-center strikes, and who knows, you might just be holding a piece of history worth $252 million in your hand. And with that thrilling thought, remember that in the fascinating world of numismatics, the line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin, and fortune favors those with sharp eyes and patience. Because history has shown time and again that coins like the 1983 cent have changed lives forever, turning pocket change into generational wealth, and that is why this coin story will continue to captivate and inspire for generations to come, keeping alive the excitement that somewhere, hidden in plain sight, extraordinary treasure still exists. Next, 1988 1 cent USA coin, today's exciting deep dive where we uncover one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, a journey into the history, mystery, and staggering value of the 1988 1 cent coin, a simple penny that has become legendary because of its extraordinary errors and mistakes, pushing its worth to an unbelievable $250 million. And as we explore together, you'll see how something so small and common can transform into an artifact of immense rarity, attracting collectors, historians, and investors from across the globe. So let's jump right in, because this story is not just about a coin, it's about the unexpected treasures hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized, and it starts with the 1988 penny, a coin minted at a time when the United States Mint was already transitioning designs, experimenting with dies, and struggling with the challenges of producing billions of coins under strict deadlines, which opened the door for striking mistakes that would forever alter the numismatic landscape. And what makes this penny so valuable is not just one simple flaw, but a cascade of unusual circumstances, ranging from double dies, transitional errors, die clashes, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, misaligned dies, and even the possibility of mismatched obverse and reverse combinations, each of which has fascinated collectors for decades. Now imagine holding a coin that appears ordinary on the surface, but upon closer inspection reveals tiny anomalies, an extra line in Lincoln's ear, a doubled inscription in the motto, "In God We Trust," or a slightly shifted alignment between obverse and reverse, details so small that only a keen-eyed collector or grading expert could notice, yet those small details turn an everyday 1 cent into a multi-million-dollar rarity, and the 1988 penny carries one of the most famous transitional errors of its time. The so-called 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, which features the Lincoln Memorial reverse design intended for the following year, with the FG initials of engraver Frank Gasparo in a distinctly different style, a mistake that happened because dies from the wrong year were accidentally paired with the obverse during production, creating a hybrid coin that slipped into circulation. And though many coins are minted flawlessly, the handful that contain this transitional anomaly have skyrocketed in desirability, especially when found in pristine condition. And when you combine this known variety with the possibility of extreme mint state preservation, plus speculative errors rumored to exist but never publicly confirmed, like 1988 pennies struck on copper planchets left over from pre-1982 or coins accidentally struck on foreign blanks, the imagination of collectors and the demand at auctions explode, driving the potential value higher and higher. And because rarity is the heart of numismatic value, the fact that only a few confirmed 1988 transitional errors exist, combined with speculation of undiscovered or hidden specimens, has created an environment where the mere mention of a new find sends waves of excitement through the collecting community, leading to record-breaking bids and private sales shrouded in secrecy. Now when we talk about a $250 million valuation, it's not just about the intrinsic rarity, it's about cultural fascination, investor psychology, and the role of coins as historical artifacts, because this particular penny represents more than a small denomination. It embodies the transition of American coinage from one era to another, and within that transition, mistakes that should not have happened but did, forever sealing this coin's place in history. And let's also think about condition, because collectors know that grade is everything. A coin with scratches, wear, or discoloration might still be rare, but a coin preserved in high mint state, untouched, shining as though it just left the press, multiplies its value beyond imagination. So picture a 1988 transitional error in MS-70, a perfect grade with flawless luster and strike, something so unlikely yet theoretically possible, and in such a case, you would have the holy grail of modern pennies, a coin that investors would fight for at private auctions, pushing its price far beyond the expectations of traditional valuation guides. And it's this combination of mystery, scarcity, condition, and human desire for ownership of something unique that creates the Extraordinary price tag of $250 million, now beyond the well-documented transitional reverse. Let's explore other fascinating possibilities, because 1988 was a year where massive production at the Philadelphia and Denver mints increased the chance for overlooked blunders, and among the possibilities are double-struck coins, where the penny was struck twice by the dies, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait, or the Lincoln Memorial, off-metal strikes, where the penny was struck on planchets meant for dimes, nickels, or even foreign coins, giving unusual weight and color to the coin. Broad strikes, where the collar that holds the coin in place during striking malfunctioned, creating a stretched, enlarged appearance, and even die caps, where a planchet sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent coins with a ghost-like impression. And any of these errors, combined with the transitional reverse or other anomalies, would elevate the 1988 penny into legendary status. And as stories of discovery circulate, collectors are reminded that great fortunes may be lying forgotten in change jars, drawers, or bank rolls, with countless people unaware that they might be holding a small piece of history worth life-changing money, and the allure of finding such a coin keeps the treasure hunt alive, inspiring new generations of collectors. Now some skeptics question whether such astronomical values are real or simply exaggerated rumors, but history shows us that when rarity, demand, and historical importance converge, the market responds with astonishing enthusiasm, just as we've seen with the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, or the 1913 Liberty Nickel, coins that shattered expectations and set records at auction, and the 1988 penny, with its transitional error and potential varieties, fits squarely into that tradition. And when stories of private collectors bidding hundreds of millions for unique coins surface, they may seem unbelievable. But within the world of ultra-wealthy collectors, owning the rarest of the rare is not just about money, it's about prestige, history, and the legacy of being the guardian of something irreplaceable. And so the 1988 penny becomes more than metal, it becomes a symbol, a legend, a cultural artifact valued not only for its mistakes but for the story those mistakes tell about human craftsmanship, oversight, and the unpredictability of history. And think about this, every coin has a story, but only a few coins rewrite the rules of value, and the 1988 penny stands among them, reminding us that perfection is not always what we seek. Sometimes it's the imperfections, the flaws, the errors that elevate something ordinary into the extraordinary. And as long as collectors continue to chase rarity, as long as investors seek unique assets, and as long as people dream of finding treasure in their pocket change, the 1988 penny will hold its mythic place, its unimaginable $250 million valuation not just a number, but a reflection of human fascination with the rare, the unusual, and the historical. So keep your eyes open, because you never know when the next legendary coin will surface, and the story of the 1988 1 cent worth $250 million is living proof that the smallest things can carry the greatest value, shaping history, inspiring wonder, and capturing the imagination of millions around the world. Last 2001 1 cent USA coin, today's fascinating and mind-blowing deep dive into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unimaginable values, where we are about to unfold the astonishing story of the 2001 1 cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and investors across the globe because of its jaw-dropping estimated worth of $248 million. A number so staggering that it seems unbelievable for a coin originally designed to be worth just a single cent, yet the extraordinary errors, mistakes, and possibilities behind its creation have made it one of the most remarkable and valuable pieces of modern coinage history ever to exist. So stay tuned as we peel back every layer of its mystery, every subtle flaw that turned into a priceless feature, and every possibility that has magnified its appeal far beyond what anyone could have imagined, because the story of this coin is not just about metal, minting, and currency, but about how human error, rare circumstances, and historical context can combine to transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. And in this script we will explore in immense detail what makes the 2001 1 cent so incredibly unique, how tiny imperfections amplified its importance, what kinds of mistakes occurred at the US Mint during its production, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to secure one, and how the fusion of rarity, historical intrigue, and numismatic fascination led to a coin whose value rivals Masterpieces of art and artifacts of ancient civilizations, beginning with the context of the year 2001 itself, a year of immense significance globally, where economies were shifting, technological revolutions were underway, and the world was about to change in ways no one anticipated, and during this backdrop the United States Mint was churning out billions of coins, yet within that massive production, some coins slipped through with irregularities that would forever alter their place in history, and among them, the 2001 1-cent stands as a titan of value because of a combination of multiple possible minting errors ranging from double dies, off-center strikes, planchet anomalies, improper alloy mixes, wrong planchet strikes, clipped planchets, misaligned dies, broad strikes, and even transitional mistakes that may have carried over characteristics from earlier years. Each of these errors contributing to the allure of such coins, but the one at the center of our discussion today goes beyond just a single error. It is believed to represent a convergence of several types of minting mistakes, making it an unparalleled specimen. For instance, a double die on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows ghost-like duplications around the eyes, lips, or date can dramatically increase value, and when paired with a reverse error where the Lincoln memorial appears distorted, misaligned, or even partially missing details, it creates a coin unlike any other. Now imagine that same coin also being struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps on a blank intended for a dime, foreign coin, or experimental test strike, resulting in an unusual weight, thickness, and metallic composition that further separates it from its peers. Collectors know that wrong planchet strikes are some of the most desirable errors, because they represent accidents that were never supposed to leave the mint, and when they do, their scarcity becomes legendary, and in the case of the 2001 1-cent, worth $248 million, the speculation is that such a convergence of errors, wrong planchet, double die, off-center strike, and alloy contamination, resulted in a one-of-a-kind coin, and as we explore further, we must consider how scarcity directly influences value, because while billions of 2001 pennies were minted, if even just one or two came out with this extraordinary combination of errors, then instantly their rarity would surpass that of many ancient coins. And in the world of numismatics, rarity equals desirability, desirability equals competition, and competition drives prices to unimaginable heights, and to understand how it escalated to $248 million, we must also look at historical precedents, such as the famous 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die cent, both of which have fetched tens to hundreds of thousands at auction. And when we scale up the rarity and uniqueness of the 2001 error coin, the leap in value becomes understandable, because unlike those well-known error coins, this one is suspected to be truly unique, a once-in-history minting anomaly that cannot be duplicated, and for collectors of the highest caliber, owning something that is literally one-of-a-kind is priceless, often leading to private auctions where ultra-wealthy bidders drive the price far beyond public expectations. And this explains how the 2001 1-cent could climb to a staggering $248 million. But beyond just numbers, let us dive deeper into the kinds of minting mistakes that may have contributed to this legendary status, such as off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically, creating a crescent of blank metal, or broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, both highly sought after. Then there are clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing due to faulty blank preparation, and lamination errors where impurities cause parts of the metal to peel. Each of these being valuable in their own right, but when combined in unusual ways they elevate a coin into the stratosphere of worth. And then there is the intriguing possibility of transitional errors, which occur when a coin is struck using specifications meant for a different year, such as leftover dies or experimental alloys. And for 2001, some numismatists theorize that a handful of test strikes were produced using unique metal compositions or leftover blanks from previous years, and that at least one of these escaped into circulation, turning into the multi-million-dollar marvel we are discussing. Furthermore, the errors may not all be visible to the naked eye, as microscopic analysis often reveals double die elements or alloy inconsistencies, and the presence of both visible and hidden mistakes only increases the sense of mystery and discovery. And this drives up the coin's legendary status, making it a holy grail for collectors, investors, and museums. Now when we discuss a value like $248 million, some may think it is exaggerated, but in The world of ultra-rare collectibles, such numbers are entirely possible, because scarcity combined with demand has no upper limit, and when billionaires and institutions compete for ownership, prices reach astronomical levels, and history has shown us similar cases with artwork like the Salvator Mundi painting attributed to Leonardo da Vinci selling for over $450 million. And rare stamps and sports cards reaching tens of millions, so when a 2001 1-cent coin with unparalleled errors and uniqueness comes onto the market, it stands to reason that it could command such an astronomical price, but what truly cements its value is not just its mistakes, but the narrative they create, because every collector craves a story, and this coin tells a story of imperfection turned into perfection, of accident transformed into artifact, of ordinary becoming extraordinary. And this narrative gives it a cultural and historical weight beyond its physical form, making it more than just money, but a symbol of how small details can reshape history. And as we continue to explore this, we should remember that coins have always carried more than face value. They carry stories of nations, economies, artistry, and human error, and in the case of the 2001 1-cent worth $248 million. The combination of all these aspects created something so unique that it transcends the realm of currency and becomes a treasure in the truest sense, and while countless collectors will dream of finding such a coin in their pocket change, the reality is that only a vanishingly small handful, perhaps only one, exists, making it the ultimate fantasy of treasure hunters worldwide, and with that dream comes inspiration, because stories like these encourage people to look closer at the world around them, to search their jars of pennies, to examine coins under magnification, and to never dismiss the possibility that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places. And so as we wrap this long and thrilling exploration, remember that the 2001 1-cent is not just about its metal or its mistakes, but about the fascination of possibility, the drive of human curiosity, and the extraordinary lengths to which people will go for something truly unique. And this is why the coin story will live on for generations, inspiring collectors, investors, and dreamers alike to keep searching, because who knows? The next great discovery could be sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket right now, waiting to rewrite history once again.